All right, welcome, ladies and gents. It's Marcel here, and here I'm with a new educational series video in which I will talk about correlations. This is a highly requested and highly demanded topic from you guys, so I just want to break it down in a few minutes. And by the end of this video, you will know what correlation is, you will know how to spot the correlated pairs or counter-correlated pairs, and you will know how to use the correlations overall to your favor, to your advantage. So I will waste no time. First, I will explain the actual definition of the correlation. Then I will show you how to spot the correlated pairs and how to use correlation. So what is correlation? It's a statistical measure of the extent that currency pairs are related in value and will move together. What does it mean? It means that we have two types of correlations. We have positive and negative correlations. It means that if you take a look at currency pairs and they are related in value, they are most likely will move together. Take an example, Euro US dollar, GBP US dollar. Here's the first example. These two pairs have one thing in common. What is the common thing in both of these pairs? The US dollar. So this Euro US dollar is XXX US dollar. This GBP US dollar is XXX US dollar. So there's one thing in common in both of these pairs, which is US dollar. So the US dollar is the dominant pair, not pair, but currency in both of these pairs. So most likely, when there is a dominant pair in these currency pairs, it means that these two pairs will mirror each other's movement, because this is the exact same common thing in both of these pairs, that it starts with something XXX and ends with US dollar. Starts with XXX, ends with US dollar. So the one thing that is common in both of these pairs is US dollar. So most likely these two pairs will be correlated together. So if EU moves down, GU will likely move down also. This is a positive correlation. And on these positively correlated pairs, you want to trade in the matching direction. So if EU moves down, but on the other hand, GU, for example, moves to the upside, you don't want to counter-correlated trade these two pairs, because if you open a short trade on EU, open a long trade on GU, one of them most likely will fail, because once again, these two pairs are correlated because of the US dollar is common in both of these pairs. So if you see a long trade on EU, see a short trade on GU, do not open them, because one of them will fail. And how can you spot that which one will fail? You take another positively correlated pair into the picture. So for example, there's another pair like XXX US dollar. You take it into the picture, there will be another XXX US dollar pair. And if it moves the matching direction that matches with EU or matches with GU, you will know that the correlation in between these three pairs are moving in that direction. And if EU and the XXX US dollar pair, the third pair, moves to the downside, likely the false GU long signal will also fail and will move to the downside too. So this is how you can spot the positive correlated pairs. And once I told you, there are negatively correlated pairs. And on negatively correlated pairs, you want to trade the exact opposite of what you see on the one pair. So for example, here is once again Euro US dollar, and there is USD CAD. What's one thing that is common in these two pairs is again the US dollar. We have XXX US dollar and we have US dollar XXX here, right? So this is US dollar XXX, which means the first part of this pair is US dollar. The last part, the second part, doesn't matter, because the US dollar is the one thing that is common in both of these pairs. And since on the first pair, Euro US dollar, the US dollar is the second part, and on USD CAD, the US dollar is the first part, you can actually measure the negative correlation here by looking at the charts, and most likely you will see Euro US dollar move to the downside and USD CAD move to the upside. Because of the US dollar inside of these two pairs, the US dollar is the dominant currency in this. This is the common currency that can be found in both of these currency pairs, right? So if Euro US dollar, in this case, moves to the downside, USD CAD has to move to the upside. And this is the negative correlation because of the XXX USD and the USD XXX. And once again, on these negatively correlated pairs, you want to trade in the opposing direction. So if your US dollar moves to the downside and USD CAD moves to the downside too, you know that something is not right here. You don't want to trade into the matching direction. You don't want to trade both of these counter-correlated or negatively correlated pairs into the matching direction. Why? Because these two pairs are negatively correlated with each other. So it means that you can do the exact same method I showed you on the first positive correlation. You take one more pair that is negatively correlated with each other. So for example, you take another pair that is USD XXX, or you take another pair that is XXX USD. And if you see the exact same thing, for example, you take an XXX USD into the picture and this XXX USD pair moves to the downside, it means that likely USD CAD will continue to the downside too, because Euro USD XXX USD moves to the downside. This is counter correlated. So if it moves to the downside, it is a false signal and it has to move to the upside. So likely after showing your false bearish signal, that will collect all of your liquidity because of the counter correlation in between these three pairs. So basically, this is the definition of correlation. This is what correlation means. You just simply take a look at the currency pairs and you find the common currency in these pairs. You will always find a common currency. Not every time, but most likely you will find a common currency, because this is the watch list. This is the watch list we have here. And there will always be one correlated or counter-correlated pair on this watch list. So this is how you actually spot the correlation. But here comes the how can you use the correlation to your advantage. There are multiple methods that how can you spot the correlated pairs besides the one I showed you, that measuring the XXX USD or USD XXX. Obviously, it works with other currencies. So there could be Euro XXX and Euro XXX, just like on, for example, Euro USD and Euro GBP. In these two currencies, let me just draw here, in Euro US dollar and Euro GBP, the common thing is the Euro, right? Because this is the first part of the currency. And the second part doesn't matter because the first part is matching. So the Euro is the dominant currency here. So it's Euro XXX, Euro XXX. So most likely these two pairs, because of the Euro, will move into the same direction. And once again, you can take examples for negative correlation too. Let me just find one. For example, here is Euro GBP and there is GBP CAD. Here is Euro GBP. This is XXX GBP, and here is GBP CAD exactly right here, and this is GBP XXX, which means the GBP in these two pairs are the common thing, but the common thing is on the one side and on the other side, which means these two pairs are negatively correlated, and likely if Euro GBP moves to the downside, GBP CAD has to move to the upside. But it doesn't really work with minor currencies. Is the strongest with major currencies like Euro with Euro, US dollar, GBP, CAD, like, major currencies. The strongest correlation will always be found on US dollar and Euro. And now, how can you spot the correlated pairs without using this method? I mean, this is the easiest method that you can use. But if you want to confirm yourself, if you want to confirm that the direction is really there, the correlation is really there, you can use two things. But first, you have to take a look at the XXX things, like spotting the common currency. That is the first step you have to make. The second step can be measured differently. There are two methods that you can use. First one is going to the myfxbook.com and clicking here on the correlation. If you click here, this is what will appear. And here you can see the correlation in between the different currencies. You can click on this icon right here on the right corner of the screen. Click on this icon and you can choose the currencies that you want to use. This will tell you how strong the correlation is in between different pairs. So for example, if you take a look at these currencies, AUD/CAD is being measured to these currencies. So you will see the correlation, how strong the correlation is in between these pairs. I do not really recommend you to use this method because it takes up so much time and it's not really efficient to use every single time before you're setting a limit order. This is much easier to take a look at the correlated, the common pairs in all the currencies that you can see, all the currency pairs that you can see on the watch list. So yeah, this can be used, but not the most efficient method I would recommend you to use. What I would actually recommend you to use besides measuring the common currency is to simply, let me just delete everything here, is to simply click on this icon. For example, we are on Euro US dollar. Click on this icon right here. Next to the Euro US dollar, you will see there is a small plus icon. Click on this and take the currency that you want to measure here. Just simply type it like GBP US dollar. You know that there is USD in common in both of these currency pairs because this is XXX USD, XXX USD on both of the pairs. So here is GBP USD. You want to measure the correlation. You click on GBP US dollar here, and the line chart on GBP US dollar will appear. And what you see right here is that these two currencies are mirroring each other's movement. Obviously, not 100% mirroring each other's movement because yeah, there will be some differences because of the not common pair in this currency pair. So US dollar is the common pair. I mean, not pair, common currency. Euro and GBP is the not common. And because of Euro and because of GBP, you will see some difference in between these charts, but the core of the thing, the core of the correlation will always be there. So here in this region, both of the pairs move down, both of the pairs move up here. Here's a small downside movement in GBP US dollar because of the GBP. You know, that's another thing. But here will be an upside movement on both of the pairs. Then it will drop. I mean, it dropped, then it came up, then it came down. So you can see the correlation beautifully on both of the pairs by clicking this plus icon right here. And the second method you can use is simply clicking here on this little box icon, the layout setup. You click on it, you choose the second one, and now you can measure two pairs next to each other. Here is the Euro US dollar, here is the GBP US dollar, and now you can see both of the pairs, that what both of the pairs are doing. If I zoom out, you will see that we can spot the exact same movements on these two pairs. Why? Because there is this upside movement on GBP US dollar, and then downside movement, upside, downside, then a nice drop down, then a nice drop down, then an upside movement on GBP US dollar, then an upside movement on Euro US dollar, then a big drop down, then a big drop down. You can see that these two pairs are correlated and positively correlated. So these are the methods I would recommend you to actually measure the correlation, but the easiest one is always finding the common currency and measuring if those if the common currency is contra or positively correlated. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Really, really, really simple measurement of correlation. And it's really, really important to use it because we have because we have lots of correlated pairs on the watch list. The last thing you want to do is to full risk all the correlated pairs. Why? Because if one fails, let's just say that here is Euro US dollar. It prints a setup, right? It prints a setup and there will be a nice sweep, nice break. And here's GBP US dollar that prints the exact same setup. What you do here in not correlated cases, when you're trading only one currency pair, is that you simply enter in the market, right? You pull the Fibonacci from here to here, you enter here in the market, you enter on the order block. But if you're trading correlated pairs, you have to split the risk. Why? Because if one setup fails, Euro US dollar fails, because of the correlation, GBP US dollar will fail the setup also, and you will take a double loss on basically the exact same setup. So what you're doing here is that you're splitting the risk. And why splitting the risk is a good decision here is because, one, you won't take double losses. You will only take a single loss if you take a loss, right? So if one pair goes to the upside and sweeps you out, the second pair will sweep you out too. It looks like a double loss, but in reality, you will only take one loss because you split the risk in between these two pairs. But the second thing why splitting the risk in between correlated pairs is a nice thing to do, and why we are doing it, is because sometimes if you're pulling a Fibonacci from here to here and you're expecting the setup to come up to the 71 level and tag you in, sometimes one pair will not come up to the Fibonacci level. Some pair will always drop down without tagging you in. While on the other hand, the second pair has a chance to come up there because of the, the not measured correlation on the pairs that is not common in the currency pair. So for example, in this case, the GBP and the Euro. So because of the GBP, this chart can easily come up to the 71 level and can drop down after. While on the other hand, Euro US dollar is not tagging you in. So using a risk split is a nice decision to make because with this risk split, you have a chance to take profit on one pair when the other one misses you out. And if you would only be trading this Euro US dollar, it will be a miss completely. And we have seen examples for this in the past, right? So yeah, this is how you measure the correlation, counter correlation. This is how you can use it. And this is what correlation is, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you like this video. Hope you learned something new from it. Take care and see you in the next one.